Hello everyone, my name is Loco, and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a best of 3 series of Terran versus Protoss. We're in the bottom left hand corner in game number 1, playing with the blue Protoss pieces. We have the highest ranked Protoss player on the planet, and he goes by the name of MaxPax. Now this is a series that nobody requested, but I am just interested myself. MaxPax is an absolute monster, and his opponent, while he's been looking very strong lately, is certainly the underdog going into this particular match. This is a cast for me, okay? Playing right here with the red SCVs. We're looking inside of the main base of BabyMarine. Now, recently, I was at HomeStory Cup, and BabyMarine, he managed to move on to the playoffs stage of the tournament. So BabyMarine, he is the second highest rated player from Italy, which is kind of fun. He's right behind Reynor. He just turned 20 years old just a few days ago, actually, as of me casting it. But the tournament format at the HomeStory Cup was brutal. So we had round-robin groups, so 4 groups of 6 players in them each, and only 2 players moved on out of every group. And BabyMarine was one of the 2 players to advance out of his group. And I think if you would have asked most people ahead of the tournament who they expected to move on out of the group, it was, well, unlikely to be BabyMarine. Sadly for him, the round of 8 was the best result he was going to get, but he's been making some very rapid improvements over the last couple of years. And also, maybe one more nice thing to note, BabyMarine is actually Reynor's little brother. So the number 1 and the number 2 players from Italy are family. Yeah, they're related. So it's nice to see. Reynor actually wasn't there this time around at HomeStory Cup. So the family still had a good showing in the end. Yeah, I don't know what is in the water in Italy, but apparently it's probably pasta water. Yeah, I guess it makes you good at StarCraft or something. I'm not exactly sure. Either way, I'm curious to see exactly what ended up going down in this particular series, mostly just because MaxPax is a beast. Like, you don't beat MaxPax as Terran in general. So I am gonna make the assumption here that MaxPax is gonna make it very difficult for BabyMarine, and he is certainly the favorite going into this series, but you know, we can go ahead and have a look and see how well somebody like BabyMarine fares against somebody of MaxPax's caliber. It's gonna be a Twilight Council opener here for Max. Should be good old Blink. He's a big fan of Blink. And actually, quite frequently, whenever MaxPax goes up against players that he believes he's better than, right? Like, if he goes up against somebody he believes he outclasses, he will actually go for the good old 4-gate Blink Stalker all-in. We do get a snipe over there, though, and that was some sweet micro from BabyMarine. Saves the command center on the low ground as well, of course, and did kill one of the adepts. That being said, this one adept did sneak around the site, and it is going to make this just a little bit more annoying. Reapers may very well have to come back home to try and save all of this. Stalker on the high ground immediately. Got ourselves Blink right now on the back of this as well, and yeah, fair enough. Yeah, there's some players in StarCraft 2 that are still rapidly improving. So we've had like several generations of pro gamers already, right, in StarCraft 2. Like, this game has been around for a while. And it's always hard to say, like, who is gonna be, like, it's impossible to say, who's gonna be spearheading the next generation, but maybe BabyMarine could be the one, right? You never know. It's at the very least nice to keep tabs on all of the younger players that are still rapidly improving in the game. BabyMarine being one of them. I've actually been very impressed as well by Fjont games. Like, Fjont's games at HomeStory Cup, I mean, he didn't have as many wins as he probably would have liked. Like, he didn't manage to move on, for example, at HomeStory Cup to the playoffs, but I thought he was playing some impressive StarCraft. Couple of sloppy games in there too, though. I think some tournament nerfs really made it difficult for him, but I think it was actually very likely, looking at some of those matches, that Fjont could actually have won against Reynor. And Reynor is considered to be, well, like a top 5 Terran from Korea. Like, the guy is very strong. Anyways, it's gonna indeed be Blink. Looks like we've got ourselves a good old triple gateway here for MaxPax. And then a 3rd Nexus here in just a little bit as well. So nothing too committed, no 4 Rex, or 4-gate rather. At the very least, it's going to be somewhat respectful, as we do have a medevac drop coming in. Medevac does die though, and both of the Widow Mines did well, already explode. In the meantime, there is some aggression on the other side of the map too, but Blink is done. BabyMarine hoping that he was going to be able to grab one of those Stalkers. Losing the medevac there sucks. I think losing the medevac is actually pretty bad. We do have the continued aggression as well, forcing a couple of warp-ins on the other side of the map. But now MaxPax, with all of that cleaned up, is going to be able to focus all his attention on this particular fight right over here. Perfect Stalker control, perfect pickup micro. And this is where MaxPax is better than anybody else. His Stalker micro is generally second to none. Now, usually whenever I say those sorts of things, that's immediately when pro gamers start making mistakes. I believe they call that the caster curse, but seriously, he hasn't lost a Stalker yet in this fight, and he's already done a lot of damage. Problem is, as a Terran player now, you want to make siege tanks. Like, you want to get the siege tanks going, but the siege tanks are spawning right where the Stalkers are. Looks like, though, we just barely managed to push it away. Third Nexus, in the meantime, on the other side of the map is about to finish. No third command center yet, of course, here for Terran. And if you lose too many Marines, too many SCVs, it does make the entire game tricky. Nice control there on the Stalkers. Picks them up. Low HP units once more get juggled into the Prism. And this is kind of when, like, the floodgates can be opened, right? Like, this is where... Ooh, nice blink there as well. Ooh, mitigating so much of the splash damage. Staying around for as long as possible, anticipating the amount of time that it takes for the siege tank to reload and shoot again. Oh, one Stalker in the front! Yep, purposefully focusing the fire right there off the Terran player. MaxPax making that Stalker control, well, look ridiculous. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on the map Pylon. What exactly does BabyMarine do differently than somebody like Clem? Well, to be fair, Clem also dies to that sort of aggression every once in a while, although it's quite rare these days. It's just slightly cleaner all around. And that's obviously the absolute worst thing if you're trying to get better at StarCraft. It's like, yeah, how do I cross this bridge from, like, being good at the game to, like, being really good at the game? And basically what you do is you do everything slightly better, right? Like, that's not the advice you really want to hear, but that is ultimately what it comes down to. Obviously, though, a lot of StarCraft players don't generally peak until, well, I mean, I think BabyMarine literally just turned 20 years old. So as these games were being played, he may actually have still been 19. Anyways, a lot of players get really good around, like, I don't know, early 20s, mid 20s, sometimes late 20s. Rarely, though, at like 19, 20 years old do we have players that are already at the absolute highest level of the game. And if you can continuously improve over the years, it does make a big difference. Now, I quite like this. We've got ourselves a double barracks proxy here for BabyMarine. It's a little risky. MaxPax is going to go for the scout, and he's looking around the main base just to make sure that there isn't something, well, hiding right nearby. Seeing the gas geyser, though, there for MaxPax, I mean, he scouted it, right? He knows that there is then a barracks proxy, or at the very least, some sort of shenanigans going on. Because if this was going to be a quick command center, you wouldn't get the gas geyser. So instead what we have is double tech lab on the other side of the map. MaxPax, though, doesn't know. It could just be that the barracks are built over here, right? They can be built anywhere. It doesn't matter. The only requirement to go for, say, a factory, for example, is that you have a barracks out there somewhere. Doesn't really matter where you are. Doesn't really matter where you build it. So it's difficult to decide if you can really commit to a real defense. MaxPax, though, is respecting it. Zealot is coming up, or it's already here. We've got ourselves a shield battery building as well, and a good old gateway. It's going to be producing, okay, a Stalker. So if you go Twilight Council here, obviously getting Blink would be amazing, but it's never going to be done in time. So apparently MaxPax's approach to this kind of situation is to go into a Stargate. If you really need to, I wonder if BabyMarine is even going to commit. If you really need to, you can obviously go, and I think you do at least want to fight a little bit. You could go for a Void Ray. Honestly, I think in this situation, you could even just go straight into Phoenixes. It's a lot of mind games going on here too, right? So Max is scouting around. He now sees a bunch of Marauders, but they seem to be heading out. I think upon seeing that there was no Nexus built here for the Protoss player, BabyMarine decided to just back off. Yeah. This is that weird early game now. You commit to a full-on cheese and then you decide, well, I guess if I actually commit to the fight, I'm not gonna achieve anything. Maybe BabyMarine's dream was that there wasn't a probe scout early on. So he just sort of semi-committed to it, but now decides to already back off. There will indeed be a Void Ray right here. Just for safety. So MaxPax not really taking any chances. At the very least, we're getting that level of respect here. MaxPax is not cutting any corners. He's not going for like a full-on, like in the previous game, for example, like a full-on all-in. Just dedicated pressure, I guess, was enough. But we did go for the Void Ray here, and I mean, it can still be really nice. Okay, so Phoenix production has begun right now on the back of this, and generally speaking, what you do now as a Protoss player is either you follow it up with a Twilight Council into Charge, or you go into Colossi. Both are viable. This barracks, it was meant for scouting. It is not going to be able to make its way all the way home. But this now does feel like a little bit of an awkward game, right? Because just a minute or two ago, it was BabyMarine soft containing the Protoss on one base. And now suddenly we have the exact situation reversed. It's just that if you have Marauders and your opponent opened up with a one base, you know that there's going to be flying units out really soon, and Marauders can't shoot up. Oh, I love that. I love that. Most people back up from the Cyclone. MaxPax is like, no, please, send in the Cyclone. And this is an absolute disaster right now for BabyMarine. The little hit squad of units here is putting in so much work. He's prioritizing the killing of... Look at him dancing. He's prioritizing the killing of the Marines, because those are the only units that shoot up. Those Marauders are basically already taken care of. A new Cyclone is here, but look at that. We get the lift off immediately, and while there is a mass repair, enough damage is available here for the Danish Protoss player. And this is why we don't see a lot of players cheesing MaxPax. This is pretty much perfect. One more? Yeah, let's have a look at one more. Another best of 3 series. This time around, I mean, it's once more BabyMarine in the bottom left. However, his opponent is somebody else, another Protoss player from Europe. Is it going to be easier than MaxPax? I don't know. We have none other than ShoWTimE. So, BabyMarine facing off against the #1 and the #2 Protoss from Europe. Again, I don't think he's the favorite going into a series like this at all, but at the very least, it's going to give us a little bit of perspective. I believe, though, that ShoWTimE is going to give him a little bit more room to breathe, right? That's what ShoWTimE does. He generally likes to go for that more macro-oriented game. So if you can give your opponent a little bit of time to breathe, maybe BabyMarine can build something up. The problem is that at that point, well, you're still facing off against ShoWTimE, who still doesn't really die to anything. But, I mean, you can go for, like... A lot of Terrans have been going for, like, 2-base all-ins against Protoss lately with, like, SCV pools. Maybe that's something that BabyMarine can bring to the party. Obviously, though, it's something that ShoWTimE has experienced many times over the last few months, and ShoWTimE is very much so the man with a plan when it comes to defensive StarCraft 2. We'll see how much he respects BabyMarine at this point in time. There is probably about a, if I were to make a guess, like maybe an 800 or so MMR difference between BabyMarine and then MaxPax, as well as BabyMarine and ShoWTimE. I mean, I don't really know exactly where their MMRs are currently at. I don't even really know exactly how serious they take laddering. But that is quite noticeable, right? Like, in other moments of StarCraft 2, like, say the difference between, like, I don't know, Platinum League and Diamond League is probably about 800 MMR as well. So it is a very significant step. Again, Probe Scout to confirm that everything is quite normal on the side of the Terran. I think maybe BabyMarine in the previous game against MaxPax thought, okay, he's leading the series 1-0. He's probably going to cut the Worker Scout. So maybe my proxy Marauders can show up and look brilliant. And then, well, the opponent has the perfect response. Twilight Council opener here for ShoWTimE. I'm expecting a very similar game as what we saw in game #1 between MaxPax and BabyMarine. So probably a triple gateway start. Blink Stalker. Quick third Nexus. We'll just have to see how committed ShoWTimE is to the Stalker juggling on the other side of the map. A little bit of variety, though, as BabyMarine decides to go into Hellions now. Hellions rather than... Ooh, that's unlucky. Bro, you literally just had to remove the scaffolding. The house is done. Just remove the freaking scaffolding. We want to move in. Unlucky. Anyway, no Widowmine drop. It's going to be Hellions instead. Here we go. Look at this guy. He's going to get 100% of the credits. Wow, you did it. Good job. This is that teammate that shows up at the end of a team fight. Somehow rakes in all the kills. Freaking kill stealer right over here. Anyways. Robo facility. Triple gateway indeed. Blink Stalkers. We'll see a third Nexus, I think, in a moment here. Everything is super normal. So one thing, of course, here is that ShoWTimE has also seen the Hellions. And when you see the Hellions, I mean, when there's smoke, there's fire. In this, in this instance, quite literally. So it takes 3 Hellions to one-shot a probe. 9 times out of 10, when you see Hellions in this matchup, it is going to result in a cheeky little drop. Although, you know what? BabyMarine is indeed making Hellions, but we're going still for a Widowmine drop. So this is the I'm gonna cross my fingers and let Reynor take the wheel type of thing, right? Where you just hope for the best and maybe ShoWTimE will crumble under the pressure. I find it an ambitious strat. Look at the splitty already on the Stalkers. Oh, the matter of fact drop is late. ShoWTimE respecting his opponent too much. He's backing up with the Stalkers. He expected the medevac drop to already come in. Since he didn't see it, he now assumes it's moving in around the flanks. Sometimes hitting the anti-timing is actually the way to go. Widowmines, though, are already getting dropped. Medevac will go down. Widowmines burrow wherever they can. It's absolute chaos in the natural expansion. But ultimately, well, pretty much perfectly managed right there by our German Protoss. Did he lose anything? Okay, he lost 2 probes. Yeah, 2 probes and 3 Stalkers, but I mean, that is a worthwhile trade. And here we go again. Now Protoss can focus all of their attention on Micro on the other side of the map. We don't yet have Stimpeg. It's not even started up yet. BabyMarine just focused on defense for now. We have a third Nexus, though, about to finish up already. Wouldn't be surprised to even see, like, a Templar Archives or something like that. Rather than risking it in the main base, ShoWTimE is just going for guaranteed damage. And this is, like, the most ShoWTimE-esque move you can go for. Focus on guaranteed damage. Don't really take any risks when you don't need to. It is one of those spots where I feel like ShoWTimE could actually try to go in for the kill. But why risk it, right? What's the point? Generally, MaxPax a little bit more decisive in these sort of spots. Same for, like, a hero. Looks like we have 1 unit to tank some of the damage. And maybe scout a little bit, too. And apparently, we've decided it's not worth it. Now, there is a cheeky little Banshee on the other side of the map getting 2 kills. Forcing a warp in as well. I would like to see a Templar Archives next here. Charge, I guess, would also be nice. Or both. Yep, there we go. Charge does start up. Okay, and that means we've arrived in that little lull in Terran versus Protoss. I mean, we'll still see ShoWTimE going around the side trying to pick off, well, whatever units he can get, really. But no player is really ready for a big attack. So ShoWTimE is going to be ready again when maybe Charge finishes up, and he could even just decide to go into a 4th base if he really wants to. And likewise, BabyMarine isn't really ready for a fight until Stimpeg, Combat Shields, and the +1 attack are all done. So Terran is currently chilling. Robo Bay on the back of this here as well for ShoWTimE. So rather than going into Storm, we're going to go for good old reliable Colossi. Auto turret drops down and... Okay. Easy snipes. Good bit of damage done, but ShoWTimE doesn't really care, right? Like at this point, we're talking full 3-base economy. There's some peaks and valleys for whenever the mules are mining, but we're talking basically full 3-base economy for ShoWTimE. Versus 2 bases and a 3rd CC about to finish here for BabyMarine. So ShoWTimE can easily sit in this position and try to outgrow the Terran over the next few minutes. It's not a huge advantage, though. But indeed, the 4th Nexus is coming up. We have the +2 as well, researching in the Forge. And we'll probably see a Colossus. You can tell this is a slightly less hectic game from the ones that we just saw against MaxPax. MaxPax, well, generally speaking, enjoys that chaos quite a bit. ShoWTimE indeed giving his opponent a little bit more room to breathe, and maybe he can catch him off guard. I love this little medevac sneak out. Looking to see if he can force a cancel on the opponent's 4th base, and that might just force ShoWTimE's hand. Yep, this is going to be a kill. And that may just force ShoWTimE to go for a big push. Difficult to really make that decision, but now that Terran is trying to secure the 3rd, this could be the time to strike. If you can intercept the medevacs, though, that could be massive. BabyMarine, no, that doesn't... Oh, that's not worthwhile. Oh, losing the 2 medevacs full of units. Sure, you killed the Nexus, but that does not justify it. That's about 20 supply worth of army down the drain. Prism is not yet here. Oh, it's because it's inside of the main base. I was wondering, I thought I saw it fly across. ShoWTimE immediately is gonna, well, pull the trigger, right? He's like, yo, you have 20 supply less army? Let's dance. Medevac drop inside of the main base. Warp in over here as well. 9 SCVs end up going down. Now we have the Protoss army trying to go around the side. Sure, you can try and protect the 3rd base, but what about I go into the natural? Well, you know what? It's still fine as the Zealots charge in. The Widow Mines do kill them, but ultimately, it is just not enough Terran. Would have been nice for BabyMarine to have 2 medevacs full of units at the end of that previous game. The volatility of high-level StarCraft is real. I actually thought that move out was brilliant until you seem to have forgotten that there was a giant army of Stalkers right outside of the natural expansion. It's one of those moves where, like, you follow up a 200 IQ play with, like, a 2 IQ play, and it all balances out again. That was a lot more promising, though, I will say. That game looked a lot more promising on BabyMarine's end than the series we saw against MaxPax. Until it didn't look promising anymore. Well, now we find ourselves on the map Pylon. Also a very ShoWTimE-esque series, right? I mean, across the board, that just really looked like ShoWTimE to me in every way. Slowly building it up, giving his opponent plenty of room to breathe, but then he strikes when the iron is hot. He's not really somebody that, like, actively hunts opportunities in the opponent's main base, for example, but he capitalizes on mistakes. And it's a cool style to play for sure. Some people can sometimes criticize the style a little bit for, like, being too passive, but hey, it's, you know, it's a legit way to play. And ShoWTimE, obviously, an extremely good player. Sadly for him, not quite a winning HomeStory Cup this time around. So ShoWTimE ended up getting 2nd place. He played some phenomenal StarCraft, but Zoun's Protoss versus Protoss looked just a little bit too strong. Even though ShoWTimE had beaten him, though, in that same tournament as well. But painful series for ShoWTimE in the end, but I still think he is one of Europe's greatest, and obviously one of the very best players we've had on the European end of things ever since StarCraft 2 launched. ShoWTimE has been playing this game for a very long time. Let me see, actually. ShoWTimE. When did he join, like, his first pro gaming team? 2012. So 2012 is when he joined Vega Squadron. Apparently they disbanded back in 2015. It's been a little while. Anyway, it's nice to see. These days, ShoWTimE is part of Sentinels. And obviously, a very successful player over the years. 31 years old. Dang, imagine being 31 years old. Or older than that. That's crazy. A little bit of a dance over here. Dude, I remember this from, like, a HomeStory Cup a few years ago. This actually blew my mind. I think I may have mentioned it before, but whatever. So, this was another HomeStory Cup. Usually there's 2 throughout the year. There's, like, one in the winter, one in the summer. And for the summer edition, we happened to have it on the 1st of July. So the 1st of July was when the tournament was going on. And both Reynor as well as BabyMarine were there. Now, Reynor is like maybe 3-4 years older than BabyMarine, something along those lines. And oddly enough, even though they're brothers, they're born on the same day. So both of them are born on the 1st of July. What are the odds? I mean, you could very easily calculate it, but still. Here's the Reapers going into the main base, trying their very best to deal a little bit of damage. Yeah, we had a little bit of a birthday parties for the Romiti brothers. Nice micro here, though, by ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE honestly looking so solid, right? Like, nothing has actually died yet until that point. We have one of the Hellions driving in, but this is one of those, I'm gonna try and throw you off of your game, Protoss, type of openers here for BabyMarine, and ShoWTimE is like, no. Or, I guess in his words, 9. He's just chilling. Makes it look easy, but these are not that easy to navigate. These particular engagements, you have to be good on your splits. You have to continuously be scouting. You have to see that it's coming in. Now suddenly, though, the Reapers are finding themselves in a situation they can't really win, so lucky for them, they have slightly faster movement speed so they can get out. But obviously, Reapers are a unit that falls off as time goes by, and so far, ShoWTimE hasn't lost a unit. Banshee is gonna try, though, and see if maybe it can get a little bit of damage done. Obviously, not a huge commitment, though, right, for BabyMarine, but still, I mean, if you have to, again, call an advantage at this point in the game, it is certainly a much nicer spot for ShoWTimE. By no means a game-winning one, but he will grab any advantage and any competitive edge that he can. Dodges out of the way, though, with the siege tank there in the back. Good positioning by BabyMarine as we have the Banshee going in around the site. Cloak is going to hit. Stalker blink into the main base. Looks like we have some good pickup control as well, but now suddenly some damage is indeed done. Still, though, 3 probes for a Cloak Banshee. Okay, the Banshee stays alive, and that makes life a lot more manageable. Otherwise, it's just a little too, well, a little too expensive. We do have 2 Banshees, by the way. I was wondering about it. So the second Banshee is over here, keeping tabs on where that prism was located. Fair enough. Third Nexus about to finish up. Charge is going to be started up as well, and we'll probably get Stimpak, combat shields, and then also +1 infantry attacks. Although actually in this instance, we don't have the 3rd barracks yet, so we can't actually get all of it going. There we go. 3rd barracks feels late to me. Looks like BabyMarine wants to do a little bit of a dance, but this is an army that can't really dance. This is an army that can dance if Protoss walks into siege tanks. Now, that was again perfect bait by ShoWTimE, using the Adept mostly right there to tank some of the siege tank shells. Not quite enough Stalkers, though, to one-shot the tank, so actually BabyMarine getting a really, reasonable trait, but I mean, 2 siege tanks down the drain sucks. It now means that basically any additional aggression, as the first of the 2 Banshees does die, but any follow-up aggression right now from BabyMarine is just going to be slowed down. Obviously, there's no fast 3rd base with this type of opener for Terran, and now when you finally do hit your power spike with Stimpak and +1, you don't really have the backbone anymore, you don't really have the siege tanks anymore to really properly fight, so you kind of play yourself into a corner here. Game has been recovered from a replay. Okay, I guess somebody must have disconnected somehow. One of the really cool features, actually, that StarCraft 2 has. If a game disconnects somehow, you can recover from replay. Continue playing again. There's usually like a little bit of a countdown, and this was mind-blowing, by the way, when they first introduced this feature. People were like, what? You can do that? That's amazing! And that's also like the last technical improvement they made to StarCraft 2, back in like 2012 or so. Anyway, it's still a sweet feature. We don't get to use it that often because, well, internet tends to be quite stable these days. And in general, StarCraft 2 is a very stable game. But it's still really, really nice to have. Especially during important tournaments. Okay, let's see. BabyMarine needs to kill this base. This is the 4th of ShoWTimE. And I don't know if he's got what it takes. Yeah, the Widow Mines get blown up immediately. Zealots do lead the charge. And this was the easiest defense that ShoWTimE ever had to do. blinks after all of those leftover units too, and I think a few of them will likely end up going down as soon as the Zealots indeed can charge once more. Yeah, a rough set of games here for BabyMarines, and also, honestly, also, like, kind of a rough set of games against MaxPax, but that's just because MaxPax and ShoWTimE are just a step ahead. And it's gonna be nice, I think, if we kind of keep track of this, like, say in a few months again, maybe a half year, maybe a year. I'll have a look at some more BabyMarine games, and we'll see where he's located then, because compared to, like, a year ago, he's playing better for certain. And even though the step to the absolute highest echelons of StarCraft 2 is a big one, he can actually fight, right? This is not a walkover. Like, he can actually compete. Oh, he's even gonna get the +1 denied over here just to rub salt in the wound. Honestly, though, yeah, at this point, I don't think it even really matters anymore. This is finally a third base taken. The ShoWTimE Colossus shows up too. Absolutely no answer. One force field as well to really bring it all home. Really well done there by ShoWTimE. Honestly, of course, not really a surprising result, but it's nice to see BabyMarine putting up a fight, and who knows, maybe one day he'll be able to surpass them.